Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Keys Pod. On this episode, I will be flying solo as I couldn't get anyone to do this pod episode with me. I'll be keeping it as fun and as interesting as possible. I'll be breaking down multiple movies and TV series that I've watched in the last month. They include the following: Happy Gilmore 2, which recently came out, Squid Game Season 3, which has been out about 4 weeks, 28 Years Later, which is a movie that's been out about a month now, but it's still got a week in some cinemas out there, and Jurassic World Rebirth, which is a movie, it's still got a few weeks left in the cinemas also. So, guys, what I'm going to do is I'll be speaking about what I like about these films and TV series, what I didn't like, anything interesting, and also I'll be speaking about my rating out of 10. So, what I do, guys, I will try to keep everything as brief as possible. I won't spoil it. I'll talk about a few of the characters. I'll talk about a few of the scenes, but I will try my best to keep this as spoilers free as possible because I know that people, when they want to hear a review or something like that about movies or TV series, they don't want to spoil too much. So I have jotted down some notes, and in my opinion, they're pretty spoiler free. I'll keep it pretty brief as possible. But yes, I will be discussing and speaking about the story as bland as I can. All right, guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to speak about Happy Gilmore 2 first. Now, I've got a few things here what I like about the film. Now, the nostalgia of watching a new Happy Gilmore movie and watching Adam Sandler making his funniest film in years and hitting the golf ball the way he does. It's hilarious, the run up. His last few Netflix films he's made, he's acted in more serious films, such as Murder Mystery with Jennifer Aniston and Hustle, where he plays a basketball talent scout. So to see him back in the comedy scene and he's modeled this movie kind of like he did with movies that he made in the 1990s. It's good to see because there are plenty of funny scenes in this film. Now, the humor of the film, there were a few real funny scenes that included a few of the following. Now, he has four sons in this film, and they're absolute cowboys. They're hilarious, and they do appear to be aged in their 20s in this film. So, look, I think they're hilarious. There's been mixed reception about his sons in this film, but I liked it. I thought it was really good that the writers had them included. Now, you see a lot of people getting hit by golf balls, and there's actually a hilarious scene when there's this little Spanish dude, and it's Happy Gilmore and a few other professional golfers. They're just smashing balls at him. It's bloody hilarious. It's not just this little Spanish dude. There's a lot of people that get hit with golf balls in this film. So it's pretty predictable as it is a golf comedy film. Now, Eminem, one of my most favorite rappers, he does appear in this movie for barely a minute. There's been mixed reception about his involvement. I reckon it was hilarious. Look, there is a scene when he's carrying on like a dick, and he does get thrown in the lake with alligators. I'll leave it at that. But look, Adam Sandler loves to have these exclusive cameo appearances of certain people, not just actors necessarily. And to throw Eminem in there, it was a shock. Eminem actually hasn't done a movie. I don't think he's been in a movie since 8 Mile, and he was really good in 8 Mile. So, look, guys, I won't spoil too much, but Eminem is in it, but I won't specifically say what he does. Now, a few things that I didn't like about the film. Now, Shooter McGavin, he was the villain in the first Happy Gilmore film, and he does make a return in this film. Now, Adam Sandler makes stupid films, but he got real stupid in this film. Shooter McGavin, he's got a deep hatred for Happy Gilmore, and he's in a mental institute at the start, and he does get released. Now, he does explain his hatred for Happy Gilmore. If he saw him, he'd beat him and kill him and all this stuff. They do actually get in a confrontation in this film, Happy Gilmore and Shooter McGavin. But as the movie goes on, Shooter McGavin and Happy Gilmore, they form a friendship, they form an alliance. Now, I wasn't really happy with this. And I will speak about that the more I speak about Happy Gilmore because I've got a few more notes. And another thing about the film is the guy, a character. He's fat. His name's Slim, and he was Chubbs' son. Now, for the people out there that saw the first Happy Gilmore, Chubbs was the guy with the fake hand. Now, I've read that the actor, I can't remember his name, but the actor that played Chubbs, initially in the first writing moments of this film, that he was to be coming back, that actor playing Chubbs, but that actor's actually died. God, he might have passed away 12 months ago. So they've changed it up and they threw in a character called Slim. This guy should not have been in the film. He's terrible. He wasn't funny at all. They tried to give him some funny one-liners. I didn't laugh. And look, they really shouldn't have had this character in the film, in my opinion. But they did. And in my opinion, it shouldn't have happened. Would have been a better film if he wasn't in it. That's how bad this character was. Now, guys, I'm going to give a brief overview of the story, and I will try and keep it as spoiler-free as possible. But anyway, look, at the start, Happy Gilmore virtually loses everything, but I won't explain how. And you see this at the start of the film, and he actually ends up living in a low socioeconomic area in America with his daughter only. Now, his four sons, they do visit him regularly, but they don't live with Happy Gilmore. They've got jobs and they're living somewhere else. And Happy Gilmore also has some old dude that lives in his garage, which is pretty funny as well. Now, Happy Gilmore needs a lot of money to be able to send his daughter to an expensive ballet school overseas. And this is his motive for him to start playing golf again and playing tournaments to try and get all this money. Now, it's about 300 grand he needs. It's like a 4-year ballet course up in Paris for his daughter. Initially, Happy Gilmore was like, man, he's working in a fruit shop, and he's like, man, I'll just work extra hours. This is when he's conversing with the guy that he lives in the garage with him. But and then all of a sudden he decides, look, I've got to get the big money back. I've got to play golf again. Also, you see Happy when he's dealing with the tragic events that happen at the start of the film, he becomes an alcoholic, and you see him attending counseling sessions for alcohol addiction. This is where he meets a character by the name of Hal. Now, Hal, a lot of people remember, he was played by Ben Stiller, and he was in the nursing home that treated Adam Sandler's character, which is Happy Gilmore, treated the mum like shit. And now he's back, but now he's a council worker. Happy Gilmore also confronts someone by the name of Frank, who's the boss of a new golfing venture called Maxi Golf League. Now, Frank wants to recruit Happy to Maxi Golf League, but Happy Gilmore, he's just not interested. And you do see Frank throughout the whole film in patches. Maxi Golf League is different to traditional golf, as it's only 7 holes and it's a lot more commercialized compared to how traditional golf is televised. Now, I'll leave it at that, guys. There's more to it than that, but I wanted to keep a very brief overview of the film, and I didn't want to explain and delve too much into the story. So I'll just leave it at that. Now, if I was the writer of Happy Gilmore 2, what would I change to make the storyline better, in my opinion? Now, I would have had Shooter McGavin team up with Frank, who's the boss of Maxi Golf League. Now, in the film, you see that Frank is trying to get Shooter McGavin involved, and I won't explain what happens, but you can say that the both of them, they clash in certain things, and Shooter McGavin isn't happy with things. But I wish it was written. I'd write it so they did have an alliance, because you see at the start, Shooter McGavin, and also in the first Happy Gilmore, he had a deep hatred for Happy Gilmore. So, look, if I was writing, I would have had those two work together against Happy. So this is until the end of the film. Now, I would have had it that Happy Gilmore gets the upper end at the end of this film compared to the both of them, if they did combine against him. And also seeing Shooter McGavin get sent back to his mental institution. That's what I would have done if I was a writer of this film. Because I didn't like Shooter McGavin teaming up with Happy Gilmore. I thought it was too stupid. You know, you can't have a guy who had a deep hatred for someone and they're in a mental institution and then he comes out and he ends up friends with them. It's just, look, I love a stupid film, but not if they're too fucking stupid. So now, guys, what I want to speak about now is the cast, because Adam Sandler, he loves to have unique casts in his films, and not only actors, he likes to throw other people in to make it really interesting. Now, I've got a list of 9 people here. There's more than that, But Post Malone, a lot of people know him. He's a popular rapper singer. He appears as a commentator when you see the commentary golf team. I'll explain this before. Eminem, he's a popular rapper. We all know him. He has a brief cameo as well. Now, Boban Marjanovic. Now, this guy is a basketball player. He's Serbian in nationality, and he was actually in the movie Hustle as well with Adam Sandler. He's a massive guy. He's actually 7'4" tall, and he was in the NBA for a while. He played for the Dallas Mavericks, Houston Rockets, and some other team from memory. But now he's currently playing in China. So I looked it up, and looks like he's 36 years of age now. So it appears his NBA days are over, and he's playing in the Chinese league. Now, there's a few professional golfers that appear in this film. You got Rory McIlroy, who's the Irish professional golfer. You got Bryson DeChambeau, and you got Scotty Scheffler. You've also got Rob Schneider, who's a long-term friend of Happy Gilmore, and he plays in a lot of his films. And he comes and says, "You can do it. You can do it all night long." So that's usually his signature statement line that he says. And yeah, you do see Rob Schneider for a few seconds doing his thing. Ben Stiller, comedy actor, you see him back as Hal. Look, Ben Stiller, his more popular movies is Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. Meet the Fockers was actually really good. It had a budget of $80 million, and it did over $500 million in the box office. So that was a real big success. But to be honest, Ben Stiller, he hasn't acted much in the last 10 years that I know of. He hasn't made, any movies that I know of or TV series. So to see him come back, I know he's a bit weathered now. He's getting on. Geez, he'd be aging in his 50s now, close to 60. But look, he's probably got this well off, got over acting, made some business adventures. And he doesn't need to act anymore. That's probably where Ben Stiller's at. Also, guys, The Caddy. Now, it's pretty funny because it's expected that Adam Sandler's going to have a caddy that has no idea on golf, and this is what he's done. And the actor that plays this caddy is Bad Bunny. Now, this guy's a Latino rapper singer. He used to date Kendall Jenner, and to my knowledge, I looked it up. I don't think they're dating anymore anyway, but that's what he's pretty popular for. He had a bit of a fling there with Kendall Jenner for a while. And yeah, he was a character that played Happy Gilmore's caddy. Now, guys, how does Happy Gilmore 2 compare to the first Happy Gilmore? Now, the first Happy Gilmore, guys, it is a better, genuine film, in my opinion. It is a cult classic. Adam Sandler's made two cult classics, in my opinion, Billy Madison and Happy Gilmore. Those two movies are actually the first two films he's ever made. And those first two films, they're timeless. And look, he has made some absolute shockers. Adam Sandler, one movie in particular is Little Nicky. I think he played the devil or devil's son in that movie, but that was an absolute flop. That was quite an expensive film to make, and it did terrible in the box office. So look, Adam Sandler, you made some great movies, but you made some absolute shockers as well. But anyway, the first Happy Gilmore, we'll get back to it. In my opinion, it's written better. It's got more deep and meaningful moments. In Happy Gilmore 1, Happy Gilmore, he's an aggressive ice hockey player, and he has more of a motive to change and become a golfer. And it's generally a funnier film, in my opinion, Happy Gilmore 1. Look, there's a lot of movies out there where the first one is a classic and it's old, and they've 10 20 years later they try to make a second one, and it just hasn't fared up. Look, Happy Gilmore 2 isn't a bad film at all. It's just not as good as the first one that was made. Now, I do have actually something interesting for the pod listeners to hear. Now, Adam Sandler in real life has two daughters, and they both act in this film. Now, the first one is the girl that's the ballerina, which is actually his daughter in the film. And the other girl that is his daughter in real life is the woman with the black hair who he does the alcohol counseling with. So, yeah, guys, if you didn't really pay attention, especially the girl that goes to the alcohol counseling with Happy Gilmore, watch it again, because that woman is actually one of Adam Sandler's daughters. So that was pretty interesting when I looked it up. I think I could be wrong, but I think it's the first movie that Adam Sandler's done with his daughters. So am I surprised about the film? Look, I didn't have high expectations for this film, to be honest. It's rare that a second film is better than the original one. Off the top of my head, look, Terminator 2 is better than Terminator 1. Top Gun Maverick was better than the first Top Gun movie. But besides that, the original films usually are the best in a trilogy. As I said before, the first Happy Gilmore, it was written better, and he has more of a motive to play golf and quit ice hockey, and it's just a genuine funny film, and it is a cult classic. The first one is this movie a cult classic? Look, guys, we're gonna have to wait 10 years or so. See if Netflix ends up letting the free to air stations show this and make it more accessible out there for people to watch it. But it's hard to say if Happy Gilmore 2 will be a cult classic. As I said before, guys, Happy Gilmore 1 and Billy Madison, the Adam Sandler's two most popular films, and they're the cult classic films of his film catalog. Now, guys, I'm going to give a rating out of 10 for this film. And to me, I liked it. It was a decent popcorn flick. Yes, it's not going to go out there, win the Golden Globes or the Academy Awards or anything like that. But to me, this film, it's an above average film. I'm going to rate it a 6 out of 10. I have watched it twice this week. And look, I liked it enough. It could be better. There is a few plot holes as well in the film, where if the writing was better, you wouldn't have these plot holes. But look, guys, I was amused enough. The storyline, look, it was decent, and it's not as good as the first one. I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with me. But look, guys, it's an above average film. And if you have a Netflix account, I suggest you guys watch it. I know a lot of people are going to watch it, but if you haven't, go check it out, guys. It is a decent film. Now, I'll be speaking about Squid Game Season 3, the TV series. Now, first, I'm going to speak about what I liked about Season 3 of this TV series. Now, to me, the main thing I liked about it was the games that were played. So, as I speak further down, there are 3 games, and they are quite thrilling, and they're the best part of Season 3. Besides that, there wasn't too much about the story, but I will speak about it briefly as I speak along. Now, what I didn't like about the TV series. Now, firstly, there's a baby born in this Season 3, which is fucking stupid. Now, the writers have thrown in the baby to make it interesting. And to me, it just got too stupid. Yes, Squid Game is stupid, but I don't like it when it gets too stupid. So, look, if the baby was never in Season 3, I probably would have given this a higher rating, which I'll speak about later. But yeah, they're throwing a baby in this, and it just made it really fucking stupid, and it didn't really make it interesting for me. I also wasn't happy with how the TV series ended, which I'll speak about a bit more later. Now, my brief overview of the story of Squid Game Season 3. Now, for the pod listeners out there, I know a lot of people watch Squid Game Season 2, and what you see at the end of it is your Gihan and a certain amount of Squid Game players. They're having a shootout with the Squid Game guards. And look, potentially the players could have got the upper hand. There was a scene where one of the players gone back to get ammo, and he just choked, and he wouldn't go back and give the ammo to the players who were shooting at the guards. And if he did, it would have made things really interesting because the guards would drop them like flies. Anyway, the guards get the bigger hand, and every single Squid Game player that was involved in that shootout, they all died except Gihan. And what they've done with Gihan is they've chained him up in a handcuff against a bed. So when he's not out there playing the Squid Games, they're chaining him up on the bed because he's a bit reckless, and that really pissed off the guy that's running the Squid Games with what he did. He is treated like shit, Gihan, when he's back in the rooms with the beds with the other Squid Game players. Being chained up by the guards. The majority of players that are still alive are the players that wanted to keep playing the Squid Games. So when it came to voting, the games kept continuing. As I mentioned before, there is a baby that appears in Squid Games, and it's just stupid, and it didn't make it more interesting. And that's what the writers obviously tried to do by introducing a baby into Squid Games. In the other story in this TV series, you got Huang Jun-ho. Now, he's the police officer, and he's on a crusade to find his brother, Huang In-ho, who's the person who's running the Squid Games. He's the guy with that unique grey mask. So you got the players and the Squid Games happening, and then you got this other story as well. So try to keep things interesting, the writers, by implementing two different stories in this TV series. And yeah, it kind of did when they did that. Now, to abbreviate on the three different types of Squid Games played in season 3, they do include the following. You got hide and seek. So in this game, half of the players have a knife and the other half have keys to escape the game. And you need 3 different keys to exit the game. And the players with the keys, they didn't know that, but then they do realize it as they continue playing the game. So you've also got a game called Jump Rope. Now, this one's probably my favorite. It involved 2 massive robots spinning a rope, and the participants, they had to hop from one side to the other while the rope's spinning. And the longer it took them, the quicker the rope spun. And geez, it was hilarious. The rope would take out people's legs and people just flip off, and they're dropping down freaking 500 meters to the ground. It was pretty hectic. That was my favorite, the jump rope. And then at the end, you got Sky Squid Game. So in this game, it involved a minimum of 1 person that was required to be pushed off a high platform per platform. And there's 3 platforms. But first, you had to push a button at the center of the platform before you could push someone off. So, look, that was a pretty interesting game. And I'll speak a bit more about what I would do to change the storyline to make it better if I did write season 3 of Squid Game. So, firstly, I want to talk about the woman who killed her son to protect the woman and baby. Now, as I said before, there is a baby in this TV series, and there's a scene when in hide and seek, there's this old lady, and she's actually gone into Squid Games to try help her son out, and she didn't realize her son was going to come in because her son owed a lot of money to loan sharks. Anyway, it got pretty wild. The mother actually stabs her son and kills him to try and protect this woman and baby. And just her reaction, there was another episode or 2 after that when she didn't seem upset by it. And she was more worried about the woman and the baby. And it was just fucking stupid. Look, I probably would have made this scene a bit more realistic. I probably would have had, look, if a mother's killed her own son to try help some strangers, this is a crazy thing to do, but you think the mother's love for the son, if she's going to do that, you think she'd virtually try to kill herself after that. That's probably something I would have done, make it a bit more interesting if I was a writer. So having the mother virtually kill herself straight after killing her son, I probably would have made it, because it's obviously, if a mother was going to do that to her own son, it's going to shock the shit out of her. Women have a very special bond with their child, and geez, if something like this happened, you'd expect the mother to be so depressed they wouldn't want to live in this world anymore. They take their own life. Now, I didn't have a problem with the certain characters that died in the end of this TV series. However, I did have a problem with one of the characters and how they did die. I won't spoil that. If I was writing this season 3 of Squid Games, I would have changed the way a few of the characters would have died. I wouldn't have had the scenario how they died the way they did. Also, I would have had a more dramatic scene with Huang Jun-ho, who's the police officer trying to find his brother Huang In-ho. As I said before, he's the guy that's running the Squid Games. You see when they do see each other, they're a long distance from each other, and Huang Jun-ho, who's the police officer, he yells something out to his brother. I would have actually changed the writing here. I would have actually had them meet up probably halfway through the last episode and probably have them both work with each other to try help themselves escape the Squid Games island because there was bombs everywhere on the island and they were activated. So it would have been, I just would have wrote it better, this whole entire season 3. Huang Junho, the police officer, he's there to try find his brother, and then when they see each other and converse with each other, it's pretty shit, to be honest. Pretty bland. They don't say much to each other, and if I was the writer, I would have made their bond. I would have made it different. I would have made it more interesting. I would have made it more brotherly. So, am I surprised about the TV series? And did it meet expectations? Look, in my opinion, Squid Games is brilliant. It is a good TV series. There's nothing like it out there. It's very unique. There's nothing really out there that's similar to it. Look, it was very suspenseful. However, season 3 just didn't end very well, and it is the downfall, in my opinion. Anything interesting about the movie? Look, you do see at the end Kate Blanchett. You see her trying to recruit people for a new Squid Games. And look, for people that don't know, Kate Blanchett, she is an American actor. The last movie I saw, it was a flop. It was Borderlands. She was in that movie, massive flop. Anyway, she has been in some good films as well. I just can't think of any off the top of my head. But look, there's rumors that there's going to be an American Squid Games, and she's going to be on it. So, look, guys, it's no surprise, they're probably going to stop Squid Games in South Korea, and they're probably going to branch it out to other places around the world. Now, variation is very important to try and keep a successful series or a movie going. So, in my opinion, they're going to take it away from the South Korean scene, and looks like the next a lot of series is going to be done in America potentially. Now, I love Squid Games, and I'm going to rate it an 8 out of 10. I'm a pretty harsh rate. I don't like giving 10s. The movie has to be absolutely brilliant, or a TV series, to give it the 10 out of 10. The ending could have been better, and that's what cost it a higher rating, in my opinion. And I've explained that just before, what I didn't like about the TV series. Now, guys, I'm going to speak about 28 Years Later, which is the third movie from 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later. Now, for some reason, I didn't make it 28 months later. I don't know why. But rumor has it this 28 years later, it's going to be a new trilogy. That's the rumor. So the way it ended, it looks like there is going to be another 28 years later. So anyway, guys, I'm going to speak about what I like about the film. So I love the start of the film. It throws in the thick of the action straight away. So it looks like around the Highlands, Scotland area, there's a small town, and they're being swamped by human zombies. And it's pretty brutal. The zombies in this, they're pretty brutal. They're pretty fast and relentless. And look, it's a lot of people have seen the trailer. You do see a bunch of kids watching Teletubbies. And yeah, this is part of the start. And unfortunately, I won't give away too much. But look, things don't go well for those kids watching the Teletubbies on the TV. But anyway, I'll keep speaking about what I like about the film without spoiling too much. I like the post-apocalyptic atmosphere. The film shows beautiful scenery, especially in the mainland. So, in my opinion, Dan Boyce was the director, and he did do a good job when it came to showing the beautiful scenery. I like how it was challenging for the father and son. Now, Spike, he is like the main character in this film, and it was challenging for Spike and his father out in the mainland. What was supposed to be an easy objective of killing one zombie and going back home to their community, things didn't exactly pan out that way, and I will speak about that later. I like how Spike decided to escape from the community with his mother to the mainland to try to find the doctor to help her. So, guys, I will explain more about this, but she's actually quite ill, Spike's mother, and he was desperate to go take her to a doctor, and there is one in the mainland. That was crazy, and realistically, that the pair of them, they wouldn't even last 5 minutes in the mainland, to be honest. So when you watch this movie. Spike, he doesn't have very good bow and arrow skills, you could say. So you got a young kid who can't use a bow and arrow for shit, and he's out there with a terribly ill mother. So, look, guys, they do last more than 5 minutes out there. It's a movie, but look, it was really edgy your seat stuff, and it made things really interesting when those two went out to the mainland. What I didn't like about the film, it got really weird in the last third of the film. So, guys, in the first half or in the first third, this movie was really, really good. I'd say it was, look, I'm a harsh when it comes to films. It was around about a 9, or could have even been a 10 out of 10. But the last third of this film, it gets just fucking weird. And I'll explain that a bit more later. But anyway, there is a scene with a zombie woman giving birth to a human baby, and they meet a doctor who's obsessed with getting people's skulls and piling them up. So that's some of the weird shit that you do see. The father and son weren't armed with machetes. Now, in my opinion, the writing of this film would have been better if the son and the father were given machetes, especially when the pair of them first went out to the mainland to go on their mission to kill one zombie and go back. Because, look, guys, bow and arrows, they're just not great weapons when you're close range with zombies. You know, especially when you run out of arrows, you can't even kill them at all. You can't kill them with your hands. So, look, you get the machetes out and you hack up the zombies. Would have made things way better. And I will speak about that because I believe they should have been given these machetes to defend themselves more efficiently in close range to the zombies. And there is an example of this when there's an old vacant house. They go on at once and they still go out in their adventure. They find themselves going back to this house, and there's a whole heap of zombies that are running in. And there's a scene when the father's trying to get his son Spike in the attic, in the roof of the house, and all of a sudden these zombies just run up the stairs. The father's got the bow and arrow out, shooting. But if he just pulled out a massive machete, started hacking up the zombies, just would have made it way better. Would have made it way more brutal. Another thing, it would have been good to see the character Eric have a longer period in the film. I'm not going to say what happens because I really liked him, and it would have made the film more interesting to have him in it longer. So, long story short, Eric, he's a Swedish soldier, and he's with these other soldiers, and their boat it sinks. It doesn't explain why, but they end up coming to Britain, and you see Eric and there's probably a dozen other soldiers that are getting chased by zombies, and you see that he is actually the last of them that does survive, you could say, a horde of zombie attack. So, look, I'll speak a bit more about Eric as I speak more about 28 years later. And there's a brief overview that I'm going to speak about when I speak about the story, and I'll try not to spoil it at all. Now, the movie starred Alfie Williams, who plays Spike, and Jodie Comer, who plays Isla, who's Spike's mother. And then you've also got Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Spike's father. So those three are, you could say, the main actors, but Spike is the main actor and the main character. They all did act pretty well in this film and made it quite believable. At the start, there's a township that gets swamped by the infected zombies, as I said before in the introduction. And there is a character named Jimmy that survives. And this Jimmy is probably 11 or 10 years old. And you actually see him at the end of the film as well. I'm not going to explain what happens, but you do see this character again. 28 years after the township was swamped by zombies, it focused on a community in the England coastal community. And they're cut off from the mainland by a high tide ocean water. So it's kind of their protection from zombies. But unfortunately, there's certain times of the day, there's a path from the community to the mainland. And when there's low tide, it clearly has this massive path visible. And geez, this path is nearly a kilometre long, or maybe it is a kilometre long, but it's quite a long hike from the community to the mainland and vice versa. Now, there are three types of zombies in the film. You have the fat zombies. Now, these fat zombies, they crawl on the ground and they mainly eat worms and insects. They will bite a human, if they can actually catch them. But look, they're not too dangerous as long as you stay away from these fat zombies. You also have these skinny zombies. Now, these skinny zombies, if they can't get humans, they're eating animals like deers, for example. Um, if they do come across as a human, they will bite them and get them infected. So, anyway, my favorite and finally the one to speak about are the alpha zombies. Now, these zombies are massive and they control a bunch of skinny zombies, and they're like 7 foot tall. They're massively ripped. They're like these massive zombies on steroids, it appears to be. And they've got these massive cocks on them. So you do see their cocks a number of times in the film. Massive packages on them, ladies and gentlemen. So it is quite humorous. And they also love to rip people's heads off. So there's a video game, Mortal Kombat. There's a character, Sub-Zero, and his fatality is he goes up to you and he rips your head off with the spinal cord attached. And this happens numerous times in the film when the alpha zombie just goes up to a human, rips their heads off, and the spinal cord's attached. So, look, it is pretty humorous, pretty gory, pretty brutal. So, look, the alpha zombie was definitely my favorite zombie. The movie focuses for the first half of the film on the story of Spike, who's a 12-year-old kid and his father. His father encourages him to go to the mainland with him for the first time to kill one zombie, then go back home. They leave when the ocean is low tide, so they can go on that long pathway to the mainland. Now, when I watched this, it appears that Spike, he's a 12-year-old kid. He wasn't really interested in going to the mainland and killing a zombie. To me, it felt like the father put the pressure on him to do it. It was like the father wants him to hurry up and become a man, and this is something that he should do as early as possible. Before they actually leave the community and go to the mainland, the father and Spike, they're actually in front of some of the committee members of the community, and it appears that there's a woman that's leader, and she says that she would rather have someone go out there that's between the age of 14 or 15, a bit older, but Spike's father persists. No, he's ready. We're going to go out there, get a kill, and come back. So when they both go out together, it's a worse experience than expected for them. They find themselves in situations when they could have got killed by zombies. They do return back to the community alive, luckily. The community celebrate their return by having a party at a pub, and Spike catches his father cheating on his mum with a different woman. So this disappoints Spike, and he confronts his father about the situation that he witnessed. It becomes intense in this situation when they get into an argument about it the next day, and Spike basically tells his father to fuck off in an argument. So it gets pretty intense between Spike and his father. And after the argument, Spike's father just storms out of the house. Now, Spike's mother is sick and he's been in bedridden. Now, I'm not going to say what she's sick with. I want people to actually watch this movie and see it for themselves. But look, the fact that she's bedridden, it's clearly obvious this is the reason why Spike's father is cheating on her. She's always sick, bedridden. He can't root her, so he's out there hooking up with different women to please himself. Spike hears from his uncle that there's a doctor in the mainland, and he decides to escape the community with his mother to go to the mainland and find this doctor to try help cure her from her sickness. Now, look, in real life, when Spike and his mother, they run into the mainland, they wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. I've said before, Spike has terrible bow and arrow skills, and the mum was horrendously sick. But look, it is a movie, and it made things interesting by having them both escape out there. So it's definitely edgy of seat sort of stuff. You really want to see what happens. Now, Spike and his mother bump into a Swedish soldier by the name of Eric that I explained about before. He finds himself stranded on the mainland after the ship he was on was destroyed when patrolling the North Sea. Now, when Spike meets Eric, he introduces Spike to things he's never heard of before, like technology such as mobile phones, and speaking to him about internet and Wi-Fi. Now, Spike has he doesn't know any of this. He's not brought up with it. He's staying in a remote area where, technology isn't great and they can't access these sort of technologies like phones and things like that. I will speak about a bit later how Britain as a whole in this movie, it is cut off and it's quarantine zoned. And if you are someone that goes to Britain, you're basically not allowed to leave. And Eric actually explains this. So another thing is Eric actually he's got his high grade military weaponry and armor, and he lets Spike look at it, particularly the helmet he's got on. And Spike is he's just amazed. All he knows is the bow and arrow and the clothing he wears. All this advanced armor and weaponry he's being shown by Eric. He's like, wow, it's like Eric's a god to him. Spike and his mother then meet the doctor, who's a total weird unit that is obsessed with getting people's skulls and piling them up on top of each other. Now, guys, when I saw this is some of the weirdest shit I've ever seen. And it did deter me about from a bit with the film when I saw these really weird scenes. I'm not really into seeing really weird shit. And look, when you see at the start, Spike's they do talk about the doctor, Spike's father and Spike. They have a conversation about it in their kitchen of their house, and Spike's father believed, the doctor was an evil person, and because he saw what he was doing, he was like burning all these bodies and things like that. But when Spike actually meets the doctor, he's a weird unit, but he comes across as someone who's pretty kind, and the doctor actually helps Spike at one stage because Spike actually gets the zombie baby, and he helps Spike take it back to the community. And it's actually, I won't spoil too much, but this zombie that gave the baby actually didn't turn out to be a zombie. And Spike speaks about this with the doctor, and the doctor explains he believes it was the pancreas of the zombie woman that protected the baby from getting the virus. So, look, in my opinion, in some future 28-year later films, we're going to see this baby grow up, and I reckon this particular baby is going to be unique. It's probably going to be immune from getting affected from a bite from a zombie. So, there's something very unique about this baby, and I think the writers they will do that in the future films, make it really unique. And a few things that I would change if I was actually the writer for this movie. Now, the first thing I would change is at night when the father and son are being chased by an alpha on the pathway back to their community. Well, an alpha zombie, sorry guys. It would have made things interesting to have the father fight the alpha, and the father uses a machete so he can defend himself better because one-on-one, a human versus alpha, the alpha will just romp him. But if the human had a machete, would have made things more interesting. And all this was happening as Spike kept running on the pathway back to the community. You could potentially have the father get killed to make the story more interesting. You have main characters get killed off, it just makes things really interesting. And it's not something I predicted at the start of the film that the father could potentially die. So look, when curveballs are thrown in movies, that's when really good writing has occurred in the film. I would have liked to have the mother last longer in the film as well. I'm not going to say exactly what happens with her. Don't want to spoil it, but I wish for her sickness the doctor actually gives a cure to the mother and helps her. So I would have liked to see the mother be someone who's unique as well. And she ends up immune to the zombies, for example. It was interesting when you watch her help the zombie woman give birth as well. So look, when I speak about the mother being immune, there is a scene when there's a fat zombie and Spike's out on patrol while the mum's asleep, but then Spike goes to sleep as well. And you see a blue bag go over a zombie's head that's about to bite Spike. And what's happened is you see this bag go over the zombie's head and it's smashed up against a wall, and you don't know who did it, but then eventually see that the mother did it. And then also the scene when the mother's helping the zombie woman give birth, the mum is actually holding the zombie woman's hands and helping her, sort of showing that motherly help and support. And the zombie woman didn't try to kill the mother when this was happening. So to me, it felt like the writers were going to try and make the mother immune to zombie attacks. But look, I'll just leave it at that, guys. Do I have anything interesting to say about the film? Now, apparently, Britain is the only place in the world during this time of the film there's quarantine zoned with the virus. And once you enter Britain, you can't leave. And Eric is the Swedish soldier. He explains this. So when he ends up in Britain, he knows he's fucked. So also, the doctor applies an orange substance all over his body to help him deal with the zombies. The zombies don't notice him as easily when he applies the orange stuff to his body, and it's helped him last as long as he has in the mainland. So I did have questions. Firstly, the doctor has got like this orange paint all over his body, and I looked into it, and it's to help him so the zombies don't notice him as much. Am I surprised about the film and did it meet my expectations? Now, I was surprised with how weird the movie got. So for the first third of the movie, it was really, really good. You know, hovering around a 9 or even a 10 out of 10. That's how good it was. And I'm a harsh rater when it comes to movies. But then for the last third of the film, it just got fucking weird with the doctor and the skulls. And it was just fucked. I've never seen anything like it. Now, my rating out of 10. Now, I did like this movie enough. I didn't love it, but I did like it enough. To me, it was above average. And I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It's a pretty decent film. It's wacky. It does get brutally violent. And where the director took a lot of risk and did things in a movie that's never really been done before. So Dan Boyce is the director, and good on him. And hopefully it appears there's going to be a second movie, and hopefully it's better than this one. But see how it goes. So that's 28 years later wrapped up. Now, guys, I'm now going to speak about Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, what I like about this film, there's a very epic ocean scene where you see a massive mosasaurus. Now, you've got the main characters on a boat, and they're on their way to the Dino Island, and this mosasaurus is trying to kill him. He's playing with the boat, and look, it's a beautiful scene. Jurassic Park had never done it before, where they've had such a unique water ocean scene, and this was definitely a highlight in the movie with the mosasaurus. I thought the island they were on with the dinosaurs was beautifully captured. The director did a good job with showing the scenery. I thought they did a good job with the dinosaur CGI, computer generated imagery. So look, all the Jurassic Park movies, they do a fantastic job with the CGI of the dinosaurs. What I didn't like about the film, now there is a few things I've got down here. Now, unfortunately, they have a dumb T-Rex. Now, I love the T-Rex as a dinosaur. It's the apex dinosaur predator. Unfortunately, they've got a freaking dumb one in this movie. Now, you see a scene when, which I will speak about briefly soon, but there is a family as well as a group of mercenaries, and the family members, they come across this T-Rex. And when they encounter this T-Rex, yes, the T-Rex does try to kill him, but has no luck. And then there's a scene when, look, the dinosaur should have easily killed a particular character in the film, but couldn't. And this character was under a raft. And look, it would have made things interesting in the writing to have at least one family member potentially die in this scene. But look, the dumb T-Rex just couldn't pull it off. There isn't enough T-Rex and Velociraptor in this film. So look, they're two of my most favorite dinosaurs. The previous Jurassic Park films and Jurassic World films, they actually have a fair bit of T-Rex and Velociraptor. But this one, look, you get a T-Rex for probably 3 minutes and you get Velociraptors for like 5 seconds. So that's pretty disappointing. There is a massive mutant dinosaur at the end of the film, and it looks like a demon from the Doom video games. And I've looked into it. The writers have actually named this mutated massive dinosaur as a D-Rex. So that's fucking hilarious. You could call it the Doom Rex, the doomed Tyrannosaurus Rex, but that's probably where they got it from. But yeah, that massive dinosaur thing looks like a massive demon from the Doom video games, which are pretty popular. The storyline was too predictable, in my opinion. You could easily guess also which characters were going to die. So, watching this movie, I was like, they're going to die, they're going to die, and they're going to die. And that's exactly what happened. They're going to survive, they're going to survive, and they're going to survive. So, in terms of a writing standpoint, it was pretty predictable who was going to survive and who was going to die. Now, guys, a brief overview of the story of Jurassic World Rebirth. Now, the movie stars Scarlett Johansson, Johansson, and Mahershala Ali, and they both play mercenaries in this film. Now, humans are now finding themselves living with dinosaurs. There's a scene near the start of the movie that has a dinosaur causing a traffic jam that appears to be in New York City. So you see this pretty early, guys. It's in the first few minutes, and yeah. There's a pharmaceutical company looking to put together a squad to quietly carry out a mission to obtain multiple different blood samples to try create a successful cure for a heart disease. And guys, this film is kind of two stories split into two. So you've got the mercenary team who are after certain blood samples of certain dinosaurs, three to be exact, and they need us to create a heart disease cure that could potentially get the pharmaceutical company, could be potentially trillions of dollars. And there's also a family that finds themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they end up stranded on the dinosaur island that the mercenaries are also going to as well. Now, if I was writing this film, these are the things I would do to change the storyline and make it a better film. Firstly, I'd want more T-Rex and I'd want more Velociraptor. They're two of my favorite dinosaurs, and you see fuck all of them in this film. So to have those specific dinosaurs in the film longer would have been better, in my opinion. I'd probably have more different mercenaries that are split up into more groups into different areas of the dinosaur island. Would have made things more interesting. You'd have more mercenaries. You'd have more dinosaurs killing more people. Could have had it more brutal. Could have had velociraptors and T-Rexes just romping through, and would have been very interesting if I wrote this film. And you probably could have made it harder for the mercenaries to get the blood samples with a few failed attempts, because, to be honest, they got these samples pretty easy when you watch the film. And yeah, that's one thing I would have made it to make it more interesting. Now, how does Jurassic World Rebirth compare to the previous Jurassic Park or Jurassic World movies? Now, guys, it's been a while since I've seen quite a few of these Jurassic Park and Jurassic World movies, but recently, I saw the first one recently, probably 2 weeks ago. And look, it brings back a lot of memories. The movie was made in 1993. It's a cult classic. Look, it did so well in the box office. The budget was like $65 million to make the film, and it did well over $1 billion in the box office. So it was a huge success for Universal Studios. And look, Jurassic Park 1, it is written way better compared to this movie. Look, briefly, for the pod listeners, Jurassic Park 1, it's about this old dude, and he's trying to create a dinosaur theme park. And he is going down the right path, but unfortunately, there's a snitch inside his team that mucks around with the computer system and cuts out the power. He does this because this particular snitch within his team, he's been bribed by another company that wants to start a dinosaur theme park as well. They need to get some DNA samples. So, yeah, if this snitch ever did what he did, this Jurassic Park theme park definitely would have sorted out, but it didn't. It's really well written. Steven Spielberg was director from memory. So, look, off the top of my head, Jurassic Park, the first one, is a lot better than this one in terms of how it's written. Am I surprised by this film, and did it meet expectations? Look, not really. I know it's very hard to top the first few movies. Look, the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movie series have been so successful. Virtually all of them have grossed $1 billion in the cinemas. So this one, maybe it might. It's still got probably another 3 weeks It's getting close to grossing $1 billion, but look, in terms of writing, the earlier movies of the Jurassic Park is better written than this one. Look, they're going to keep making these Jurassic Park movies. The Universal Studios, they make a shitload of money from them, and unfortunately, they are kind of running out of ideas. And they are getting, in terms of writing, you could say it is getting worse. But look, I didn't have high expectations for this film because I didn't think it's going to be better than the first one anyway. Anyway, guys, I'm going to give my rating out of 10 for Jurassic World Rebirth. Look, to me, it's a pretty average film. I don't hate it or anything, but I don't love it either. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It's an average film. Good CGI effects of the dinosaurs. However, the writing, it wasn't that great. Storyline wasn't great. It was pretty predictable, to be honest, what was going to happen. But look, it wasn't a bad little popcorn flick. I went to Gold Class to go see that movie with my brothers and my dad, and look, they liked it enough. But look, guys, if you want, if you love your dinosaurs, you just want a bit of a popcorn flick to go see, yeah, look, Jurassic World Rebirth, that's great to go see, but in all honesty, don't expect it to be better than the earlier films that have been made. All right, guys, that's this episode done and wrapped up. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of Keats Pod. Bye for now.